Okay, so let's take a look at Harlem. Harlem is a neighborhood in New York City, all right? It is actually on Manhattan Island. Let me pull it back so you guys can see what it looks like. There's New York City. Here is Long Island. Here is Manhattan. And Harlem is right on Manhattan Island, if you look. There is Central Park, the Upper East Side, the Upper West Side. Down here is the financial district where the Statue of Liberty is and the Twin Towers. And then right here is this neighborhood called Harlem. And it was traditionally an African American community. And there was this great surgence of music and poetry and writing in the early 20th century, in the early 1900s. And it was called the Harlem Renaissance. This is where jazz came from. This is where Langston Hughes lived and wrote. And that's who we're going to hear from today. That's the poem we're going to hear today. So it's this area, and he wrote it and titled it right after the neighborhood, which was Harlem. Okay? So hopefully that's sounding a little familiar. Hopefully, like, okay, I've heard of Harlem. I kind of remember that. Okay, so the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to hear the poem. This is Harlem. It's also called A Dream Deferred, and it's read by Langston Hughes himself. So I'm going to mute myself, and we're going to listen to him reading this poem.
What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat, or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load, or does it explode?
Okay, that's it. That's our poem. Let's go into our Google Classroom and pull it up, and let's do some annotation. So go into classwork, and you want to pick the assignment called Harlem Poem Annotation. And then you want to pull open the poem itself. You're going to open it with Cami. Okay. Anybody having trouble getting that far? Just to recap for everybody, we went into our Google Classroom. We went into classwork. We opened up Harlem by Langston Hughes, the poem annotation, and then we pulled that poem up. Hi, Alden.
Hey, Miss. What's that one word for when something isn't like an object and you give it human traits? Or like not an object.
Personification.
A what?
Personification?
Oh. Oh yeah. All right. I just forgot the word.
Oh, cool. Okay. So the first thing I want you guys to do is I want you to put a text box next to the word Harlem. Then I want you to tell me what you think this poem is talking about just based on the title. Dave, text box next to the word Harlem. And then tell me what you think the poem is about based on the title. title's Harlem. What do you think this poem is about?
I think of whatchamacallit. My bad, I just got back because I was cleaning up some dishes, but I think of Harlem City.
Yeah, that's fine. That's all you need to write is Harlem City. Or it's actually a neighborhood, which is part of New York City, but yeah. Okay, once you have that written, I want you to go back into Google Classroom. And I want you to pull open the other Harlem. It says Harlem by Langston Hughes classwork. And I want you to open up the vocabulary template. And it's got in the center of it the word deferred. I want you guys to fill this out. What is it? What is the definition of deferred? Go ahead.
Like if you were to like change paths or something, so if you were to defer something, it would be to change the way it goes.
Okay. So Jade says it is to change the path of something. Let's look it up in the dictionary. Okay, if I type in deferred, here's what it says. It says to put off an action or event to a later time, to postpone. So let's put that on our slide. Okay, go ahead and write the definition. To put off, to postpone, to delay. Then I want you to find some synonyms. Jay, darling, what are you doing? Then I want you to find some synonyms, some words that mean the same thing, and some antonyms, some words that mean the opposite. And then I want you to give me an example. Okay? So on our slide, the definition, it means to delay, to put off. What are some synonyms? What are some words that mean the same thing? What are some antonyms? And give me an example. What's something that could be deferred?
You know, the definition couldn't be to delay.
It's to delay.
What does delaying?
Mhm.
Are you still looking for synonyms?
I want you guys to fill it out, but what's the synonym you've got, John?
Oh, I was gonna say suspended.
Mm-hmm. Sure. I'll give you guys another minute or so on this slide. You really just want to make sure you've got a good idea of what deferred means. Jade, you're kind of like my guinea pig. So where are you on this?
I am on the
Okay, awesome. Okay, so antonyms are words that mean the opposite. So if deferred means delayed, what's the opposite of delayed? Promptly, that's good. maybe immediate or rushed. I don't know what I'm thinking. And then give me an example of something that can be deferred.
Homework.
I defer my grading until next semester.
Oh,
No,
I don't think so. You can't do
I
that.
can't do that.
You can wait until the last week of the 6 weeks.
That's miserable.
Well, then you spend literally your waking hours.
And just so we're clear, you're not allowed to defer your homework until the last week of the 6 weeks either, kiddos.
Hey, I just defer my homework from Monday to Friday.
No deferment. But you might have heard deferred used in other places, like you might get your deployment deferred if you're in the military. Or let's just say someone you know made a bad choice and they get arrested. They could get something called deferred adjudication, which means that their sentence is postponed. And as long as they commit or complete community service, then that charge against them will go away. Like often for a ticket, a speeding ticket or something, you can get deferred adjudication. Means your judgment is delayed. Okay, does anybody need more time on this activity? Angel, Kimberly, Cara, we doing okay? Isaac? Oh, with that overwhelming response, we'll go ahead and continue. Okay, so hopefully you filled that out. Let's go back to...
Miss, I just got back from the bathroom and I heard you say let's continue.
Yes.
What are we continuing from?
So you should have just gone into Google Classroom and pulled up the vocabulary template and filled this out. Now, and we discussed that deferred means delayed. So now we're going to go back into Cami, where you guys are going to annotate this poem. Okay? So what happens to a dream deferred? So next to that, I'd like you to highlight or make a text box or something explaining what this stanza is saying. What happens to a dream deferred? Put that in your own words. Okay, then if you look at our next stanza, does it dry up like a raisin in the sun or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Okay, so we have a bunch of similes here. And if you guys will remember, a simile is a comparison that uses like or as. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 similes right here. I'd like you to explain briefly what each of those similes are. Okay. Okay, so we are saying what each one of those similes means. For example, the first one, it says, does it dry up like a raisin in the sun? So does the dream shrivel and die? That's what I'm getting from that. And look at the next one, or fester like a sore and then run. What does that mean?
Bother the person.
Does it bother the person? Good, Jade. Okay. You want to get down an idea of what each of those similes means. And then we have a space. Then we have, maybe it just sags like a heavy load. We've got another simile here. What does this one mean?
Is it heavy?
Yeah. What do you think they mean by is it heavy, Larry? That dream.
Like, is it something important?
Yeah, like maybe it becomes a burden
Yeah,
to
like
carry it around. All that could have been but wasn't. And then our very last line, or does it explode? What does that mean?
Does it cause, you know, if I'm mad, it explodes in anger.
Yeah, like to explode in anger, maybe.
Yeah. Or does it explode with emotion?
Maybe. Maybe it's emotional. Yeah, what do you think?
Yes.
Say again, Alden?
Oh no, my bad. I was talking to somebody else.
Yvette, perhaps?
How'd you know?
Because I'm reminding her because she got kicked off. So, hi, Yvette. Okay, so now that's a pretty short poem, right? And what we have here is this central question. What happens when your dream is delayed? What happens to your dream?
It gets crushed. Like, for real. If my dream was delayed, I'd be sad.
Yeah. What do you think, Larry?
it gets harder.
It does. And there's all different ways that it can get destroyed or crushed or get harder. It can dry up. It can fester.
It can become an
It can stink. It can sugar over. It can be a burden. It can explode. So there's all different ways that this could happen. Why do you think Langston Hughes called this poem Harlem? Yes, Jade.
Okay, so this is literally going off of an idea. New York City being one of the most popular cities for opportunity and where most people go, one of the most popular cities to have to go to make your dreams come true and all this. It's also known for being one of the biggest letdowns when it comes to it being a dream of somebody to go like live in New York and do stuff. So it's called Harlem. I don't know why specifically Harlem, but I would assume since it's a neighborhood in New York, that it is a form of metaphor saying, hey, this is a city of letdown, and this is how dreams are deferred, even though people go to New York City to have their dreams come true.
Okay, so if you didn't hear Jade, she's talking about New York City being thought of symbolically, representatively as the land of opportunity, a place where you can make your dreams come true. But here is this neighborhood in New York City where dreams don't come true. And that neighborhood is Harlem. And let me tell you, the defining characteristic of Harlem in the early 1900s, before the civil rights movement, was that it was an African American community. So what happens when your community is constantly told, not yet, you can't have equality yet.
Their dreams are being deferred.
Yeah, their dreams are being deferred by everybody else. So Okay. You guys feel like you get this poem? I think you get this poem. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to watch a short video. It's 5 minutes long. And then I am going to, oh, actually, no, let's do the simile chart right now. Okay, so go into Google Classroom, and you will see Hughes's 6 similes. Pull that up. Okay, so you've got his 6 similes here. You're going to chart them. What are the 6 comparisons he makes? And then explain that simile in your own words. What does this mean? And you really just did that on the poem itself. So this should be pretty easy. This last column, you're going to leave it blank. We're actually going to come back to this document at the end of reading the play. Okay? So go ahead, and I'll give you a few minutes to fill out this chart. It's called Hughes's 6 Similes, and it's under Harlem Classwork.
Just chuck me. Never mind.
How you guys doing? Oh, that's not what I wanted.
So we're just doing the first 2 columns, that's it?
Correct. Mm-hmm. The 6 similes, and then what you think each simile is telling us.
And then on the other one, the Cami one.
Uh-huh.
So here's what I got so far. I got like the title, like what I think it means, and then the thing on the side that says simile.
Yes. Okay. So for the very first line, what happens to a dream deferred? We put that in our own words.
Mm-hmm.
And then we looked at each of the similes here, and then we said what we thought each one meant. So it's really just the same thing as the chart you just did on the poem. Now you're going to transfer it to the chart, and we're going to come back to that chart later.
Oh, all right.
Wait, we're doing just the second column?
Just the first 2 columns. So the 6 similes, you've got the,
I know what the 6 similes are, but it says explain the simile your honor, attach the outcome of an unrealized dream different than the other.
so in one of them, in that first one, it shrivels and dies. In none of the other comparisons does it shrivel and die. Right? In the next one, does it fester like a sore?
Does it begin to bother you?
Does it begin to bother you? That's different than what the other ones are. You're just looking at how they're different. It's pretty much what we just discussed. You're just charting it out.
Right. So is it just my bad, I'm asking. So is it just this one right here and the other one? Like the
Well,
6
I can't see what you're referring to, but it is
like the one you have on your screen and the Cami poem?
so far.
So far. Okay, so
Yes. we're going to watch a quick video, which is also on there. So Yvette can watch that on her own. It is under classwork. It's the Harlem PBS. It's 5 minutes long. And then we're going to answer in Harlem a response. There's a question.
Oh, okay.
So that's what we have left. So she could actually do that part on her own if she wanted to. Or she can listen in. If you're FaceTiming, she'll be able to see your screen in the video. But if you want to watch it on your own, it's there for you.
All right. Thank you.
Huh?
I said I don't have to have PBS kids open because you're going to play it?
No, I'm going to play it again. Okay, I am assuming you guys are done or sort of done, or if not, you're planning on sticking after class to let me help you with that. Let's watch this last video together, okay? It's 5 minutes, and it is different people talking about this poem. It's former President Bill Clinton. It's Herbie Hancock, who's a piano player, a pianist, and a composer. It's a poet, Sonia Sanchez. It's students from the Harlem Children's Zone, and they are talking about this poem. So I'm going to put myself on mute, and then we are going to watch this 5-minute video together. Listen to what the different people say about Harlem and its meaning, because you're going to use that in your response.
What happens to a dream deferred? The first sentence, the first question, has a bit of sadness attached to it. Is a dream deferred? I mean, dream is like a goal, what you reach for, you know, what you aspire to, you know.
And you want to go for it.
And you want to go for it. Deferred means it's been deflected some kind of way, which is a disappointment. So there's disappointment involved. This is Langston Hughes. The title is Harlem.
And then because Langston Hughes was in Harlem and because he was well aware of the continuing challenges of African Americans and of poor people generally, he knew that there was a social dimension to dreams deferred, that if you deferred dreams for a whole class of people, a definable group, that in the end, it could compromise everybody else's dreams too.
His ashes are buried in a place of honor beneath the lobby of Harlem's Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture.
Woke up this morning with my eyes on Langston. I say woke up this morning with my eyes on Langston. Woke up this morning with my eyes on Langston. Gonna live, gonna love, gonna resist.
I asked the poet Sonia Sanchez to read from her poem about Langston Hughes and to tell me about the time she met him.
When I was very young, I went to see Langston Hughes read in Harlem. I had to have been about 12 or 13. And I got in line and I got up in front of him and he said, yes, you know, and I said, I'm et cetera, thank you, you know, and I extended my hand and he shook it and that was it. And I thought as I walked away, oh, why didn't you say, I write poetry, I love poetry, I love your poetry, all those things. But I was actually dumbfounded. And you know why? Sometimes we like poets, but people loved Langston because they knew that they would hear the truth. They knew that he would talk about their lives with empathy, with sympathy, with love, with respect. They knew that he would say simply, whatever you have experienced, I too have experienced. I will chronicle you. I will tell your story here in a place called Harlem. And he made Harlem go far beyond this Harlem, the Harlems of the world. And that's why I loved him so much.
It was written in the 50s. So this particular time period, discrimination against Black people was much more extreme, but it still exists. in Harlem today, and in black neighborhoods throughout the United States. Almost no matter what.
Where dreams are being deferred.
Deferred, yeah, because it still ain't right. What I felt from my reading of it loses the spirit of a poem.
What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat, or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load, or does it explode?
Langston Hughes was heavily influenced by music. So there's a rhythm, there's a musical rhythm to this poetry. It's a lot like jazz. It's clearly one melody,
Yes.
but there's some ad-libbing, some improvisation as you go along. The lines rhyme. It's a different rhyming scheme, but it's enough to remind you that it's a poem, just like it'd be enough to remind you that it was a jazz song.
This whole piece, that when you do it, you hear the jazz and blues, so you have to then take your mouth and make your tongue begin and respond. What happens to a dream deferred? Do that, do that, do that, do that, do that, do that, do. Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or fester like a so, and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat, or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load. Or does it explode? He gives you.
Well, you
ability
just
to
sang
move.
this all as bebop,
Right. Yeah,
right? With
yeah.
some scat.
Yeah.
I hear, and maybe it just sags like a heavy load, an older country blues.
Okay. So after watching that and seeing how different people kind of interpret that poem and what it means to them, I want you guys to answer the question. It is in classwork, the last thing. It's called Harlem, a Response. After watching the short feature on PBS about Harlem, write a response in which you discuss your thoughts. What do you think happens when a dream is deferred? Do you agree with any of the ideas shared in the video? Do you agree with Langston Hughes' ideas in the poem? Explain using specific examples from the video or the poem. So I should be able to tell in reading your answer that you watched the video and that you read the poem, okay? That is what I'm looking for here. Once you're done with that, you are done with class. So there you go, Larry. Not even the whole time. What? Okay, well, there you go. That is our class. Go ahead, Larry.
My bad, miss. My mom came in my room.
Oh, that's okay. All right, so there you go. That is our class today. You've got the rest of the time to work on your work and whatever else you need to, and I'm here if you've got questions.
I love it.
It's fun, Kate.
I was like, I'm right here.
I'm gonna stay here in case I have questions.
Okay, I'm here for you.
I'm so smart.
Miss, I turned in some work. A lot of work.